All right, we had interviews today from tight ends coach Blaine Stewart and linebackers special teams coach Jeff Koonz. A couple of really interesting interviews to me. Not every word they said. Couldn't catch every word they said because both of these guys kind of talk faster as they go along. But we'll get to some fun stuff here in just a moment. Quick, as far as basketball, nothing has officially happened. There is chatter that things will be happening soon. It's pretty much what I said sometime last week. They'll get it done. And when they get it done, it'll be done well. I have faith in that. And I think it is all going to come together very quickly once the first two or three of the next pieces fall into place. You can go watch Hoops from the Hills, Hoops in the Hills, I forget. I know they did a show, I think yesterday, that including some of the updates on who is expected to be hired. So you can check that out. Meanwhile, this is West Virginia football going deep. I'm Forrest Poston. Please subscribe to the channel. Click the thumbs up button, make comments, and click the share button and tell your friends. All of those things really do help. Every time you interact with, in a positive manner, with the video, it tells YouTube's algorithm that, hey, this might be interesting. Maybe I should show it to other people. So that gets me more subscribers, I hope. All right. Blaine Stewart. Talking about some of the individual players. Traylon Davis, who did an interview earlier this week. I'm sorry I didn't get to doing a video about those. But Davis has not changed his weight, but he has adjusted his body. So he is able to do more than just blocking. He's getting downfield. He's not just catching things in the flat. Bigger, faster, stronger has been the phrase for this spring. He's not bigger, but faster, quicker, evidently a little more agile, which will help in blocking as well. But he should be able to do a wider variety of things at a higher level when he's on the field, which will help make things less predictable. It wasn't that we weren't going to pass when he was on the field by himself. Just seemed a little less likely and less of a danger to the defense. That may change. Dixon and Bram both progressing pretty much as hoped. Dixon might be, he said, the most rounded of the tight ends in terms of being able to handle both the blocking and a wide variety of receiving. Of course, Dixon can get downfield. I think he hits about 20 miles an hour on the GPS, which is not bad at all for a tight end. Samarco, basically, he's a freshman. He's learning. He's doing well. Got a ways to go because he's a freshman. I guess went up against Sean Martin in a goal line drill. That was a learning experience for him, which kind of matches. I think Davis said that his welcome to college football moment was going up against, I forget who. I'm sorry. Bram is understanding what they want him to do, and he is able to play all of the variations on the tight end position, whether he's up on the line, H-back, split out. That's sounding good. He's up to 240 pounds, still adding weight and still getting used to his weight. Putting it on is one thing. Understanding it is another. I put it on. I still don't understand it. Of course, I wasn't trying to. And none of mine is muscle. All right. Taylor, of course, is not participating in any of the contact drills until his surgery fully heals. But they say they are working on maximizing his physical development. Because, he's been a little, he needs a little extra weight and strength if he wants to be able to really be a top blocker. And he does want to be more than a receiver. Of course, he came in wanting better chances to be a receiver. This is the year to go complete. So they've been studying last year and also studying some young tight ends who went to the NFL and had success recently. So working on having him NFL ready, which would be good news for West Virginia. And TJ Johnson, by the way, is officially a receiver. Could play tight end in a pinch, but if we got to that pinch, we might be in trouble. We also have Colin McBee, who plays or can play fullback, tight end, and running back. So he would likely be, how many guys would we have to lose to get to Johnson? But, the room looks good. Stewart pointed out last year, at this time last year, utilizing the tight end was what they planned to do. And we'd heard that before. But come the season, they actually did it. So now we can expect them to do it more, and that probably does motivate the tight ends a little bit more when they know that if they are ready, they can get some opportunities. Talking about recruiting, not specific players, just general recruiting concepts. I said first, the guy has to fit the philosophy and the culture. And then you adapt to what the player does best. Now, of course, that doesn't mean you don't ask Cole Taylor to block just because he's better at receiving or better at certain routes. Just means you focus on some of those things while you're also trying to improve whatever it is they don't do well enough. When you're out looking for a guy, you've got some non-negotiables. You want size, athletic ability. But if a guy is an inch under your, minimum, but has the great athletic ability, looks like he could develop into something special, you adjust. And it's also it's a question of who's in the room, what does the room still need? Because yes, a tight end needs to be the Swiss Army knife kind of guy, but some are going to be better at certain things than others, and you want the room to be complete. If you have a couple of guys who are great blockers, you can focus more on a receiver who needs to learn how to block. All right. On the personal side of things, said main thing to learn he's learned is time allocation, which includes his time and also how he uses the players' time, because they do have other things to do. I know some schools don't exactly emphasize that, but you have to get as much done as you can in the time allowed. So he's better at that, which certainly should help the program. Has learned to be more aggressive in recruiting. It's not, he may be upbeat and sometimes fast talking. That doesn't always mean aggressive. So if a player is hesitating on an official visit, you push. You maybe go through the coaches to get an edge. So that, as long as he doesn't overdo it, should improve the recruiting. And he also said, on a personal story, was recruiting down in North Carolina, went in to talk to a coach, and the coach pulled out a letter from Blaine Stewart's father. From obviously, and many, many years ago. I mean, we're not talking when he was head coach at West Virginia. I think he said back when he was actually probably was coaching at VMI. Meanwhile, Jeff Koonz, and I know some of you don't like Koonz because results haven't always been good, but he hasn't really had a great deal to work with when the season got started. Even if we started with some decent guys, injuries have really screwed the linebacker room and therefore special teams. But it looks good, and I like listening to Koonz. He does seem to be a high energy guy. He's precise. I think a lot of that will translate well for the players. But said it's been no surprise, the most productive spring since he's been here. We've got guys who aren't on the sidelines, but basically, again, it's all of the guys are bigger, stronger, faster. They're playing more aggressive. Cutter is not missing as many tackles. They're really focusing on these guys playing downhill. Diagnose the play quickly, get there at high speed, and take the ball carrier down hard. It's not hit, it's strike. So I know, we haven't seen that as much. We've seen the faster guys, but not necessarily the straight up hitters. If you like that football, you should like this season. Carico adjusting well, fits the culture, fits the scheme. It's a scheme quite different from what he was used to, so there is adjustment, but he's a hard-working player who fits in every way. Football, culture, and as the older guy in the room who's able to help the younger guys, but he said all of them coach each other. The interaction there is frequent and good. And that, again, that's part of culture. You gotta have guys who will interact, and any anger that they might have when somebody points out a mistake is passing. You don't take things out on one another, and it doesn't carry over off the field. They definitely want to rotate players, which they will finally be able to do. No injuries, please. He did mention Favres, so it sounds like Favres intends to come back. Isn't necessarily looking like he's leaning towards the portal or something. No guarantee, but I don't necessarily think he would get mentioned. Based on what the other team is doing now, they actually have a number of packages. So they can go heavy against a running team or a team that's putting up some big players. So it's even possible 3 or more from the linebacker room could be on the field at one time. That could get interesting, but we've got a bunch of great athletes on the defense, but some of the best are in the linebacker room. And we have not been able to, well, we could say that if we talked about the guys who were sitting on the bench with injuries, but now we could have more than, two sets who are superb. And meanwhile, everybody is playing both Mike and Will. How much difference there'll be between those two spots this year isn't clear, but both guys are, all guys are playing both spots, and evidently some additional spots in special packages. So be interesting to see exactly what that means. Now also, I mentioned this in the special teams video, having this many good linebackers means they play more on special teams. Last year, guys were playing way too much. So if they were on special teams, it was just one special team. He said this time you can have guys on two special teams, including kickoff, because they're not expected to play as many regular snaps overall. They are still, as good as they are, they're not quite where they want to be. He said you're looking at 2 juniors, 2 sophomores, 2 freshmen, and I think that includes redshirt. No, we got 2 freshmen coming in, but we don't, ideally I think they want 2 seniors, 2 juniors, 2 sophomores, 2 freshmen, 2 coming in, so that we actually have essentially 5 years of stacked recruiting, so that we know we have depth and continuity. 1 more year gets us there. So we'll see how how that works out. I also mentioned that he said Caden Beiser, bigger, faster, quicker on diagnosis. And that's a big deal. That's a big deal. Kobo was quick on diagnosis, not always accurate. Cutter, nose for the ball, but wasn't always accurate. And of course, then that means missed tackles. So if we are faster, more physical, and diagnosing correctly, quickly, man, that would have made a big difference a lot of times last year. Note, we have, hasn't really gotten talked about, but Caden Beiser's brother Jackson did join the team as a walk-on, transferred, I think, from Shepherd. But he is playing defensive end. I'm not sure where he was listed when I looked at the roster, but that question came up. Haven't heard much on that story, but we do have brothers once again on the team. Special teams. Koonz, again, he's stepped up well while Hayes is injured. He is proving that he can do it. Hasn't proven it in the games yet. That'll be the next step when he's needed. On the kickoff team, and obviously that was a lot of the interview. Problems, second half of the season, they were moving guys around a lot because they did not have enough of the right guys still healthy and on the team. And, well, maybe too much. Said thinks they trying to find the right combination. They may have moved guys around too much, so they did not really know their specific job in a given formation well enough. That makes you think, that makes you make mistakes, but they understand the situation. They are not planning to do it that way again, but they also simply have more of the type they need. And And this is something that I have mentioned. He was a little more specific. He said you take away about 4 kickoff returns. So that's the 3 return for touchdown plus 1. And really the numbers were almost where they want them to be. And that's the thing. People focus, because the mistakes were catastrophic. And they cost us one game, almost cost us another. But the mistakes in terms of numbers weren't frequent. The kickoff team was good most of the time. When there was a mistake, it was a big one. But that should be easier to fix. You are not trying to fix the whole thing. And also, I mean, he was strong on the fact that, with 11 guys, you each have a very small area you're responsible for. He said, basically, you're going hunting, and if you're trying to hunt the whole field, you move slowly, you lose focus, something goes wrong. So the focus is on getting each person to know and stick to their essentially 1/11th area to hunt. Hunt that area, hunt it hard and fast. It's a nice theory. Now, also, he did say they wanted a higher percentage of touchbacks. They need to, ascertain what it was in their coaching that, interfered with that and correct the problem. But they're also specifically after about a 4.0 to 4.1 hang time and location, which helps knowing where to hunt. So whether you drop it in the end zone or a little outside of the end zone, you want the hang time to get your guys down there, and you want them to know where the ball is supposed to be. All of that matters. And he said also, with all of the special teams, really, that you figure out what the other team does best or does often, and you scheme to take that away, but then your focus remains on each guy do their small part. Do your job, know your job well enough that you can do it quickly, full speed, and well. And since we have a lot of guys back, we have experience. And those guys were good most of the time. They should be better this year. And they have some new guys who will take it to another level. I still do not want a lot of touchbacks because I like seeing the returner get smashed on the 15-yard line. Short of forcing a fumble, seeing the guy get smashed, is, my ideal play. And he said they have done some version of kickoff work every day through spring practice so far. I found it interesting, and I have a feeling this may have been based on a specific event. He didn't say so, but he got a little excited when he talked about it. Talking about with the competition, yes, you can have the guys do the drills, drill, And then you have the one-on-one competitions to try out the techniques you were taught. And he said, you may have a freshman who has been doing extremely well in the drills, and in competition he goes up against Aubrey Burks. And then you see what you have. Hey, if he beats Burks, you've got something. Now, I don't know if the story he was telling was a guy who beat Burks or not, but he did seem to relish telling the story. Okay, on the, as far as punt returns, kickoff returns, of course, that's still not set. I mentioned it in the special teams video. You do have Fox, Gallagher, Evans, probably a few other guys back there on punts. And if you haven't seen the video, I think it was probably Fox, seeing how many punts he could catch while still holding on to each one. Answer was 4. On the last one, he had 2 balls in his left arm, 1 between his knees, and caught the punt with his right arm. That sounds, of course, nobody was trying any fancy spins. So. On kickoff return, he said just about anybody, you know, on the skill set, you know, running back, receiver, and some of the defensive backs might get time with kickoff returns. At least 8 or 10 guys have been getting work, including, I don't think I mentioned Clement in the earlier video, but Clement, Fox, Donaldson, and Anderson. And so, you know, this is, I think, first mention I've heard of Anderson. They say, yeah, with Donaldson and Anderson back there, one or the other. If they don't get the kickoff, you have a fairly big guy to add to the blocking. But also Ray, White, and again, it's going to be a lot of guys, and they would like to have a lot of options back there, guys who have done it in practice in case they need them in a game. All right. Think that covers things. I am planning to do a video about the offensive coaching staff and why I think it may be practically perfect in every way. And I doubt if anybody gets the Mary Poppins reference there, but if we had a little Disney magic, I wouldn't mind. But those guys are young, the average age, and of course, Koonz did a video about Chad Scott as the special sauce, and always the worry, what happens if or when Scott leaves? And I will talk about that in the video, and why it doesn't worry me as much as it used to, but still lots of questions. All right, thanks for watching. Once again, please subscribe, click the thumbs up button, make some fascinating comments as I know you have in you, and click the share button. Tell your friends that I'm out here talking my head off, and come to think of it, I think I may have started talking almost as fast as Stewart and Koonz did, and I haven't had that much caffeine. Wow. Okay, I'll talk to y'all later.